There's a siren, Pat, in the background.
There's the opportunity for a lawyer joke here, but I'm not going to make it.
All right.
Better bring more than just a couple of guys.
You know, Pat, earlier we were talking about Ludwig and the number of Facebook friends or hits, the members of the group that he had. I like to comb Facebook as it relates to a variety of different things, but one day I'm looking at it and I see just a couple of guys, which is, of course, us. But I look closer and I see Point Nemo. And I look and I say, Point Nemo, what in God's name is this?
Do you know?
Are
you referring to my post?
I read your post about Point Nemo. I'm still not sure I understand it. Enlighten me, please.
Well, do you know anything about Point Nemo?
Not much, except that I think after seeing it, I went online in some obscure place in the world.
Very obscure.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's like the furthest place from civilization you could possibly find. And apparently it's,
is it an island?
It's 30. No, it's just an area.
An area? What does that mean, an area?
It's 30 times the size of France. It's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
So it is an island.
It's not necessarily an island. It might be a point.
Is it a peninsula?
It's not a peninsula.
Is it an isthmus?
It's not an isthmus. But
Don Isthmus.
So I remember him. So the point was, I'm putting gas in my car, and there's this guy. And he comes up to me and he says, I recognize you from the podcast. Now, I don't know about you, because you're famous, of course, around town, but I've had a lot of people contacting me about the podcast ever since the launch. I'm getting these Facebook friends, wonderful people, but they're not in my age group necessarily.
That's okay. We want the younger crowd.
No, I'm not. They're older.
Oh,
yes. I see that they're all friends with you. So but they're friends of the podcast. That's what we call them. But so I'm garnering all this fame, which was unintentional. I didn't do the podcast for fame because you know me, I'm kind of a wallflower.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, so I see this guy at the gas station and he says, I recognize you from the podcast. And I'm like, oh, really?
What gas station was this?
The BP. The BP.
Okay.
Yeah. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, where are you from? And he said, Point Nemo. And I'm like,
you gotta be kidding me.
I'm like, what? And I said, what the heck is Point Nemo? And he describes it for me, and I start to confront him on this, and then he says, well, it's really about 45 minutes west of Point Nemo. It's just easier to say. And I'm thinking, okay, it's like saying you live in Chicago, but you're really from St. Charles. I said, I get what you're saying. But anyways, I thought it was hilarious. I had to post it. And
our podcast is being heard.
I'm thinking maybe we could do a literal remote from Point Nemo. What are your thoughts? Me on a skiff?
We'd have to get this guy. You'd have to find him, first of all. I don't think I want to do anything without somebody who's been to Point Nemo.
That's right. For all we know, he's the chancellor or something. Maybe he won the Charlemagne.
He might be on the city.
He won the Charlemagne of Point Nemo or something.
He could be on the city council of Point Nemo.
He could be
the mayor of Point Nemo.
He could be the city council. But so I thought that was interesting, and I posted that. And
that clarifies what I'm now reading. I'm looking.
Dual purpose too, because it also served as kind of an advertisement for the podcast, which I think we're obligated.
You don't think for a minute we could get a sponsor at Point Nemo?
From your friends in Point Nemo, bring your business to us. Huh? I like it.
Well, see, I'm surprised you didn't ask some questions about, beside him living there at Point Nemo, what businesses might exist at Point Nemo.
Well, I didn't know what he was doing.
You said it's the size of France?
30 times the size of France.
No,
this is an area that is so far removed from civilization. Nothing grows, nothing lives, nothing, whatever. There's no life.
I think you're putting me on here.
Well, if anybody's putting anybody on, the guy filling his tank was putting me on.
Let me ask one more question, and we'll call this a day.
I do have Point Nemo shirts coming.
We'll head off to the Sox game here.
Right.
But let me ask this question. If I Google Maps, if I Google Point Nemo, would I find it?
You will find, you can read about it. Yeah, I don't know if you'll find like a map of it.
I found my boyhood home on Google Maps. Google Maps is outstanding.
Well,
you can find everything you want. I'm sure you can find your home.
The difference there is that yours is probably some kind of a special historical preservation. Whereas my home, we came from modest means. I will say this, though. I lived at Fairview Drive, right? When we moved there, from Kentucky Fried Chicken over to the dance studio, there was a sign that said Fairview Plaza. And it was all brand new. There was a whole brand new subdivision. It was beautiful. And, now it's weathered. It's old.
By the way, just to comment on your earlier point about historical monuments and so on. I grew up lower middle class, and none of my old homes are historical by any means. In fact, the first two don't even exist any longer.
But you're on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever it is.
Well, that was actually the third house I lived in, and my grandmother's house. I found both of those on there. My first and second childhood homes are no longer in existence.
I have found my home in San Ramon, California on there.
You talked about this.
Yeah. 9572 Brockton Avenue.
What's the price on that?
It was like $600,000. It's a 3-bedroom ranch.
Well, that's that Bay Area.
Though, my God, it was crazy. It was so small that I could barely walk down the hallway. And this is before the massive weight gain. I could barely walk down the hallway. But we had fruit trees. It was a beautiful little place, but it was very small. It's not $600,000. I don't care who you are.
Well, my childhood home was a 2-bedroom, not 3-bedroom,
right.
2-bedroom bungalow with a sunroom that became the little guy's bedroom when a surprise third child came along.
Sure.
He was thrown out into the sunroom because there was no other bedroom available.
Surprise third child.
My younger brother.
But it was right next to that coal mine you worked at for those 8 or 9 years growing up.
Not coal mine, Commonwealth Edison plant. 3 summers. Great job, suntan, worked outside, but I was shoveling coal. Yes, but it was, at least we were outside. Took a shower every day before we went home.
Do you feel as though
8 to 5 oh my God, that was a great job. Summertime, make beer money at ISU.
I remember Cushman and I lived in an apartment complex that was next to one of those electrical substation, and I'd be sitting there sleeping. Not we.
You'd be sitting there sleeping. That's interesting.
And my bedroom was close to the substation, and I could hear this. And I'm wondering the whole time, am I getting cancer? Am I gonna have a tumor, or what's the deal? So that's a dangerous place to live.
Yes,
but it made you the person you are today, Charlemagne Award winner. Not only a Charlemagne, but the 100th Charlemagne.
Please, let's.
No, what are the odds that you would be the 100th?
Long.
All right.
I think we should go. Let's go to the Sox game.
All right.